Hey y'all, my name's Ryan Firm and I'm excited to get the opportunity to speak with you and to share my journey in the creative space. Over the past 15 years in the design industry, I've worked on projects ranging from newspaper layout to large format digital displays, from application design to traditional web design. I've got a passion for improving the lives of others through the services that I can provide by being empathetic and understanding through human-centered design thinking. Throughout my career, I've been blessed to launch over 250 different experiences for a variety of different clients, from A&E TV, Coca-Cola, Home Depot, MTV, and Hilton Hotels worldwide, as well as artists like Taylor Swift and Johnny Cash, Florida Georgia Line, and even Snoop Dogg. Everything from the entertainment industry to small town boutique, and now focused in the healthcare space. Through all this, I've been able to touch the lives of millions through thoughtful digital experiences. I'm a proud 2009 graduate of Youngstown State University's Fine Arts and Graphic Design program. I think that's called the Graphic and Interactive Design track now. Maybe it's the GID for short. I'm not sure about that. If GID's not a thing, maybe we make GID a thing tonight. I appreciate you being here. I've actually got a fresh cup of coffee brewed from my favorite roaster back home there in Youngstown at Branch Street Coffee. Now would be a good time to pause the video, grab yourself a fresh cup as well. Really appreciate you being here and listening to my journey in design over the past 10 to 15 years or so, and letting me share with you a few lessons learned that I've discovered along the way. So let's start with some fun facts. You already know that I'm an '09 graduate, but I also went back to school in 2016 and completed a master's in user experience design from Kent State University. We'll talk a little bit about why that happened and where it played a role in my career here in a little bit. While at YSU, I was also an All-American college bowler. I like to tell people that I was a college athlete. I don't strike them as a college athlete, but when I say that it was bowling, they're like, oh, that makes sense. I currently live in Nashville, light Nashville-ish, about 30 or so miles south of town, in a little town called College Grove with my wife, Brooke, and our daughter, Kennedy, and our puppy, Lola. I've been the guest speaker at several different events and have had the opportunity to talk at a few different universities here in town. Don't judge me for this one, but I'm a big fan of the band Creed, one of the best bands of all time. Also really enjoy Leon Bridges, especially with a freshly brewed cup of coffee in the evenings, and the band Dawes. I'm a personality type of ENFJ. That's the protagonist. 16 Personalities is a great site to give personality tests. I encourage you maybe to check that out, take it. If you don't know, what that means or who that is, think of people like Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Ben Affleck, Morpheus from The Matrix. They're also ENFJs. So I have big shoes to fill. Don't ever think I'm going to be in the shoes of any of those people. But maybe let you know a little bit about me. I also tried to grow a mustache in 2020. That didn't work out so well, like a lot of other things in 2020. And so nevertheless, some fun facts maybe to start. Let you know a little bit about who I am as an individual. My journey just starts down the road. I'm from Campbell, Ohio, maybe about 6 or 7 miles from Youngstown State. If anybody's from Campbell, it's a tight-knit, tiny little town whose nickname maybe is Soup City. And I definitely said that my fair share of times there while I was living there and while I graduated from Campbell Memorial. Just wanted to start out to say that, I grew up enjoying art, being influenced by, a grandmother who was a very skilled artist and craftsman who had a great attention to detail and an eye for excellence. And I like to think that she passed that along to me. She helped me out with so many projects in college, there in their basement in Camel. But I grew up there at 652 Chapel Lane in Camel, not too far from Coitesville, there on the east side of Camel, in that house, with that car, there from Google Maps. But I enjoyed doodling and sketching and painting growing up. And while I was at Campbell Memorial, I actually built some club websites, some sport websites. We were using tools like Microsoft Publisher and Paint. Don't tell anybody, Paint. To build these websites, things that today you would just not even think about doing. But back then, back in, 04, 03, as a high schooler, that was cool. That was fun to be able to do some of those things. I was also active in the AV club, served as a commentator and broadcaster for the morning news at our high school for sporting events that we would cover. And so always really had an eye towards or a passion for technology and for how to be creative, whether that was video or design or painting or just different types of drawing, different types of creative outlets. And like many of you, as I'm sure y'all had in high school, had a very influential art teacher. My art teacher in high school was Mr. Bailey, a staple of that community, a staple of Campbell Memorial High School, and was also a graduate of Youngstown State University in the art education spectrum or program there many years back. He encouraged me to pursue something that was called graphic design. At that time, I didn't know what that was. I knew I had won some yellow page ad, designing ads, contest, but didn't really know what graphic design was. And he said, it's all about, it's advertising, it's marketing, it's taking your skills as an artist, as somebody who can draw and building out, content and art that has a much wider span of influence and many different avenues to go down. And so I found myself at YSU. I was in the YSU Art Program from 05 to 09. Like a lot of folks, it was a local university that I just, felt could provide me an education while still also balancing, home life, things that were going on, and then also working on the side as well. And it was local. I had looked at Toledo and Kent and Akron and a few other universities nearby, but thought that the YSU program was great and was local, and didn't see any reason to leave home. At YSU, I really discovered a passion for graphic design, understanding what it was, how it could have an influence on the world, what design meant to the world around us. And for me, I really had an appreciation for typography and layout. I also thought I was way cooler than I actually was with that photo there on the bottom right. But Michelle can attest to this. I struggled with Photoshop brushes and with creating depth and texture. I really struggled in her stamps class, I think. I learned to write HTML with a text editor and with Dreamweaver. One of my highlights as somebody who was had an appreciation and was passionate about typography was getting invited to meet Matthew Carter, the godfather of typography, designing fonts like Georgia and Verdanda to Homa, like the fonts that are on every machines. This guy did on the bottom left of those pictures there. Meeting him and actually getting to eat spaghetti next to him there at a restaurant downtown. Michelle invited me, forever grateful. One of the highlights of my career, meeting Matthew Carter. Also was on the bowling team, like I said. So we were traveling on the weekends, going to different tournaments. We were actually we were pretty good. We were in the top 25. The ladies team was way better than us. They were, sometimes in the top 10 in those 4 years. But I was also working 3 jobs. I was working as design editor at the Review newspapers. I was freelancing for Stambaugh Auditorium, kind of in a full contract capacity. And I was also scooping ice cream, because the benefits were really good of free ice cream, at Handel's Ice Cream on South Avenue in Boardman. And if you don't tell anybody, I actually spent a few nights sleeping in the shop and paint lab downstairs in what was then Bliss. Not sure what it is now. Spent a night or two sleeping down there because I was pulling all-nighters and didn't have time to go home, even just a few minutes down the road. But enjoyed my time thoroughly at YSU. In 2009, when I graduated, like most people, reality really hit hard for me after graduation. I found myself job searching and looking for opportunities, and really looking locally, like regionally, like looking at Akron, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and was really coming up dry. But I felt really confident in my portfolio, so I didn't know why nothing was turning up, and was kind of discouraged. I actually had a job offer to stay at the Review newspapers and continue in a more full-time capacity being design editor for them. But ultimately wasn't really, driven towards that. And one thing that I had to keep in mind was I had never left home before. I grew up in Camel. I've lived there. I lived at home all through college. I was 21 years old, never had left home, and was faced with, not really finding anything regionally, and looking for opportunities outside of Northeastern Ohio. Applied for jobs in Youngstown, applied for jobs in Nashville, applied for jobs in Dallas and a few other kind of big market cities. And ultimately, I had one interview out of school, which brought me to Nashville. I'd never been to Nashville. Most people come to Nashville with a guitar and a dream. I came to Nashville with my laptop and a hope that maybe I could break into the creative industry here. Nashville has changed drastically in the 10 years that I've been here. But I'm forever grateful for the move to come down here. I definitely enjoy country music way more than I did when I first moved here. Nashville has a way of doing that to you. But Nashville is a great place and a really thriving creative and design community here in town throughout Nashville. My first job was at a company called Uniguest. And so my expertise coming out of school was along the lines of magazine layout, print layout, newspaper layout, more traditional graphic design, advertisements, and things like that. Really hadn't done a ton of digital work. And the irony was my first job out of school was 80% focused on user interface design. And so I must have had just enough in my portfolio to convince them to hire me. But Uniguest really emboldened and propelled my passion for creating interfaces that would scale, from different device types, and that would be easy to use. And while at Uniguest, even though kind of young in my career, I found myself being in a role that would shape the vision of their hotel business center offering and self-serve kiosks. If you ever go to a hotel and you see their business center with the computers that are there, odds are that's probably a computer coming from Uniguest. They have a tremendously large footprint across the US. And so my job was to create the interfaces that you'd go to when you log on. You don't just log on to kind of a generic desktop. We were building desktops that were tailored specifically to Marriott and to Hilton and to Choice Hotels. We built things like a boarding pass station. So you could go straight to this boarding pass station and print out your boarding pass. Again, this was 2010. So having all that on your phone was not really a thing yet. And this job really shifted my mindset from maybe a more traditional print design to more interface design. How could I leverage those same skills that I was learning in the graphic design program to be more specifically focused on digital interactions and digital interfaces in the creative space, the creative industry? A couple, maybe an interesting point here. I was at Uniguest from 2010 to 2012. And when my wife and I were on our honeymoon in 2014, so many years after I had left the company, we were in Asheville, North Carolina, and we were staying at an A-loft in downtown Asheville. And I just thought, let me just go over to the business center and I knew they were a client of ours and maybe they have a Uniguest, interface. And 2 or 3 years after I left the company, when I jiggled the mouse and dropped onto their business center, it was the interface that I designed, still living, still alive on that screen so many years later. And so all that to say, you never know what the longevity of what you create is going to be. For me, I didn't have any, expectation that it would live more than a year. And here it was 2-3 years down the road Wouldn't surprise me if maybe there's still some interfaces that look that way. But really thankful for the first opportunity that I had coming out of school at a company called Uniguest here in town. Freelance has also played a big part of my career path. In 2011, I started freelancing in a more routine capacity. I started to carve out a little niche with local entrepreneurs in web and mobile app design. We'll talk a little bit about connections later on, but some of those connections continue to pay dividends over and over again, even 9 years down the road. Like I said, we were focused on mobile site design, application design. And so we worked on, I had the opportunity to work on some of the first kind of responsive sites for artists like T-Pain and Kelly Clarkson, Daughtry, Monica, Newsboys. But then we also, did some things for the Alzheimer's Foundation of America and for Habitat for Humanity. And if you think about it again, 2011, responsive web design really wasn't a thing. Web design or mobile web was kind of an afterthought. And so we were finding our niche, carving our niche in a freelance capacity, myself and a few other entrepreneurs locally, and building out mobile specific sites, which is really a big deal. And got me a lot of work that I was consistently having side work, in the evenings. And so I was working my 9 to 5 and then going home back to my apartment and building out more designs, and had a great time doing it, and allowed me to create a lot of great relationships there. I still freelance in some capacity, not in the same way that I did back in 2011. I'm much older and like to go to bed a little earlier. And so, but still do it, on the side where it makes sense. And I can pick and choose, what I want to do from a freelance perspective at this point. In 2012, I made the move from Uniguest to Parallelon. Some things that happened within the organization at Uniguest that put me in a position that I didn't really feel comfortable with from a career perspective. Maybe less design and more marketing, and was really looking for something else. And so, found this opportunity at Parallelon in 2012. Parallelon is kind of a sister company to a larger company called HCA Healthcare here in town. But I found myself at Parallelon being able to provide some design leadership that they really hadn't had before, and to stabilize their product offering through design systems. If you're unfamiliar with design systems, think of things like Google Material Design, the Apple HIG. If you go to any Google product, Gmail, Google Docs, Google.com, Google.com, they're all going to look and feel the same. All those sites are powered by a design system called Google Material Design. Same thing with Apple. Apple products look and feel the same. If you go to, the calendar app, the Apple Mail app, any of the native Apple products, they're all going to look, feel, function the same. And that's based off of the HIG, the human interface guidelines that they've created, these design systems. And so I was able to do that at Parallelon. How could I create, what the definition of what a button would look like on every single product? And really started to think about design less from a, how can I be uber creative, and more about how can I provide business value through the products that I was building. So I was focused on B2B or business to business healthcare applications. It was 90% product design and maybe about 10% marketing. And really in this role focused more on business strategy and the return on investment, or the ROI of products. So it wasn't, good enough just to build a product, but the product had to enable efficiencies and more rapid, completion of jobs, or more rapid acceleration on how much work you could get done in your workspace, and really start to think about, what are the KPIs or the key performance indicators of design? So is it efficiencies on, completing a task? Is it amount of users in the product? Is it how long they're in the product? What are those key, those key performance indicators, those key things that make a product successful? It's a little different train of thought, a little different thinking. Doesn't mean you can't be creative, but you have to be creative with keeping those things in mind of what are the ultimate business drivers for these products. Thoroughly enjoyed my time at Parallelon, although it was a stint. It was super quick. And here's why. In 2012, late in the year, while I was still freelancing on the side, outside of Parallelon, I was freelancing for a company called Checked In, and had the opportunity to work on a project for Checked In with an artist named Taylor Swift. And through that, was offered a role as creative director at Checked In. For me at that time, I thought it was my dream job. I was able to work in downtown Nashville with a lot of my friends, worked with a company who had a mascot as an octopus named Carl. I could play ping pong whenever I wanted to. We had free snacks. And really for me was an opportunity to grow in my creative leadership, to think outside of the box, to be versatile in my creative abilities, to move from a more, from a business to business, data heavy design space to more open, free thinking, creative mindset was really challenging and, pushed me to be versatile and to think outside of the box. And just to have a different creative mindset in doing these things while still thinking about key performance indicators. What are the tasks we want users to achieve on these sites? Who's our main audience? What's our main goal? What do they like? What are their passions? And really, we were working on things from the music industry to entertainment, sports, retail, social media, designing for maybe older demographic country music fans to, young teens who are really huge Taylor Swift fans. In my time at Checked In, I launched with my team over 150 campaigns. I was Checked In for about 2 years. And if you do the math, that's about 2 campaigns a week that we were launching, with myself and a few interns and about 3 or 4 devs, developers. We were launching a lot of product, a lot of campaigns. So if, Taylor was coming out with a new album, we would be building the digital experiences to go along with that. Win tickets to a concert, win a Taylor Swift prize pack, have a chance to sing with Keith Urban, get pink tickets, for her whole tour. Was really creating a lot of different experiences that was the digital, kind of support for album launches, for TV premieres, for movie premieres and things like that. And through those experiences, touched the lives of millions of users who completed millions of interactions on those products. And in working with, different household brands. And this really hits home for me, to think about, that kid who grew up in Campbell, Ohio, down the road from YSU, has been given the opportunity to work with a large number of household brands that a lot of people in the industry don't get to work with. And that doesn't fall short with me. I am truly blessed to have had those opportunities and to have the connections and the folks who have helped me land those opportunities throughout my career. And, throughout it, have been really humbled by the fact that I've been able to work with some of these great brands and some of these great talents. All that to say, in 2014, I found myself at a crossroads, making a decision of, am I really passionate about building campaigns that would fulfill fans' wildest dreams? Or could I use my skills to save lives through design and user experience? Some additional factors were that I was getting married in 2014 as well. And so was that agency, kind of 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. lifestyle going to be supportive in starting a new family? Maybe, maybe not. And was that going to be ultimately the lifestyle that I wanted to live in, that kind of fast-paced creative agency environment? And so ultimately for me, when I started looking for maybe another opportunity, the only real place in town that I wanted to work for was a company called HCA Healthcare. HCA is one of is Nashville's largest employer. There's over 200,000 employees throughout our organization. HCA owns about 150 to 200 different hospitals around the country, and also about 1,000 other patient touch points as it relates to physician offices or urgent cares. And so just a tremendous footprint in the US and in the UK, and local here in Nashville. And so in 2014, I took a position as the senior UX designer at HCA Healthcare. HCA has over 20 million patient encounters each year. So people visiting our facilities. And my role within that was to lead the design efforts on all of our consumer and patient-facing products. So all those different touch points, 900 plus websites and apps that are built for our hospitals, now were my responsibility. And so while 150 different experiences launching felt like a big deal, 900 different digital web properties was an even bigger deal, with even more on the line when you think about saving lives. I also served as a UX representative for IT best practices, for a council that would bring kind of leadership together around UX and development, architecture, information security, and things like that. And so with HCA, a company this size presents complex and really life impacting challenges, and allowed me to use my skills in design in a different way, in a role that could build products that would make the lives of our care providers, of our physicians, of our doctors, make their lives easier, more efficient, which would in turn save lives and have a tremendous impact on the patients that were coming to HCA. And I knew, different from maybe that agency lifestyle, that really this organization that was, more predictable, more dependable, I could really build a life here, build a home here at HCA Healthcare, and have really been given some tremendous opportunities to do that in my 6 going on 7 years at HCA Healthcare. On the right-hand side, you see the careers.hca healthcare site that I helped. I was a team lead on for designing that, and was a recent launch at careers.hcahealthcare.com. One of the tremendous opportunities that I've had is continuing my education. So in 2016, I took up a graduate degree program at Kent State University. I wanted to grow in my understanding of UX leadership, and then also set myself up for opportunities of leadership within HCA Healthcare. And so I decided to take on this 2-year master's program. It was definitely not for the faint of heart. Looking back, I don't know how I did it, how I got through all those sleepless nights and those all-nighters on top of working a 9 to 5. But this master's program allowed me to formally strengthen my understanding of UX methodologies. And so while I was really confident in my bread and butter of UI design and interface design and understanding KPIs and business drivers, I really wasn't as strong in IA and in research and in personas and workflow and testing. And all those areas are really the all-encompassing end-to-end UX methodologies, UX meaning user experience, and really helped me understand, end to end in a deeper way, what UX means and the value that it brings, in a more formal way. Another cool thing is that, where I had stayed local for Youngstown State, this was an opportunity for me to network with designers around the world. One of my best friends and folks who I chatted with late at night while I was working on projects was from Germany. And she was just getting up in the morning working on her projects, and I was late at night just getting started. And so we would chat through the night on Slack. and talk about what we were working on. And networked with a lot of great friends and designers who I still talk to even a few years afterwards. And it allowed me to set myself up for professional development and professional growth with HCA. Not every organization does this. I have a tremendous opportunity with the company that I work for at HCA, where they provide financial assistance to be able to go back and continue your education. And so that was a great opportunity for me to do that. And also it's an organization that values continued learning. And so I felt that if I was ever going to move up in the company, that this would be a good opportunity to invest in early on in my career to set myself up for success later. My next opportunity at HCA in 2009 was to move into a role as UX lead within our newly formed UX Center of Excellence. And so what that means is that throughout this company of 200,000 people, we are a centralized group of UX professionals who serve the entirety of the company. Folks come to us for guidance and consultation on UI, interface design, and UX best practices. And within this role, I really partnered with our brand team, who's a totally different group inside of our marketing department, who had just kind of revamped the company, created a new logo, new marketing, new strategy, and helped to oversee the development and growth of the new design strategy within HCA, and specifically within our IT products that we build. One of the things that we built, we talked about design systems earlier with Google Material Design and the HIG, the Apple Interface or Human Interface Guidelines, was to create our own enterprise design system called Neutron in partnership with the brand team. So you see some examples of that there on the right-hand side. So we were defining standards for hundreds of products that were going to be built leveraging this product or this product called Neutron, this design system. And so that no matter what product, no matter what your role was in HCA, you could tell you were working on an HCA product because it had the same look and feel. So this is, maturing in that design thinking process from just making something beautiful and pretty and creative for the sake of being creative, then understanding the business value and the business drivers of design, to understanding how design can be seen as a service to empower and to have an even broader reach to enable developers and business analysts and product managers to build products that look and feel and function like they're all part of the same family. In this role, I've been able to provide consultation in serving as a lead for project workloads and UX management, and then also have had the opportunity to reach out and evangelize UX through teaching and training and design sessions across the enterprise. Just in my 6 or 7 years there at HCA, myself and the team have probably conducted a couple hundred different teaching and training and design sessions throughout the past several years. And it's really been a great journey at HCA. Just recently in 2020, I moved into a management position as manager of UX and design systems. In this role, I lead a talented team of UX designers, researchers, ALY, so A11Y, so that's accessibility, design, and best practices, and product design professionals. And we serve all of IT and our ever-growing, vast-reaching product offering. Our Neutron design system at this point empowers about 100 different products within our group. We have accessibility experts who are focused on leading the charge and building great products for all our users, whether you're colorblind or you have you leverage assistive technologies or keyboard usage to complete your daily routines. We ensure that we build product for everybody, not just for a subset of humans who can who are high performing and functioning, without assistive technology. But especially being in healthcare, it's important to take care of all people and not just alienate some people because of some unique challenges that they face. These UX design professionals are all about solving problems the right way and not just building or being creative for the sake of being creative. Our UX researchers identify who we're solving the problem for, and what's important to them, and ensure that we're testing and meeting their goals along the way. On the right-hand side, you see a snapshot of all of us working from home in this COVID environment. All of us proudly representing our HCA Healthcare t-shirts. This team is, like I said, built with UX designers, researchers, accessibility, folks who are fresh out of school, who have no degree, who are self-taught, who have their master's programs, folks who have been in the industry for 20, 30 years and have way more experience than I have, but are just a really tremendously talented team that I'm thankful to be a part of here at HCA Healthcare. All right, let's spend just a few minutes here at the very end. And I just thought it'd be good to share with you some things that, looking back, I wish I would have known, or maybe wish I would have taken a little bit more seriously if I would have known they would have had such a tremendous impact on my career. The first one is that connections are everything. So you need to invest in them. Sometimes, as I've learned, connections are even more important than your skills or your talents. I've known folks who might not be the most talented designer or business analyst, but have landed jobs because they had a great personality, were great to work with, and they had connections at the organization. For me, the connections that I've made here in town, and then also way back in 2005, have played a tremendous impact on my life and my career. And so here's just a few of them. Rosemary Kelly, she was the first person who hired me at Uniguest. She took a chance on a kid out of school who had little to no user interface design experience, and gave me the opportunity to start a life and a career here in Nashville. Rosemary was also instrumental in vouching for me and advocating for me as I moved on to Parallelon. And she's continued to play a tremendous role in my life as a reference and as somebody who I've worked with for several years. Trey Keller is the COO of Dozen Software, one of my really close friends here in town. He was one of the first ones that I started to freelance with, doing the sites for T-Pain and Kelly Clarkson, and continually since 2011 has thrown work my way. He's a local entrepreneur in the music industry, in the development space, and I can always count on Trey in times when it feels like I need a few extra bucks for freelance work to throw something my way. And that relationship has paid dividends over and over again. The next individual, Brant Beard, is AVP here at HCA Healthcare. So I think one of the important things is to find somebody in your life who is 10, 15 years down the road from you, who is either in your industry in the creative space or is where you want to be at. So Brant is a mentor of mine. He and I meet monthly to talk about work and life and how I'm doing in my career. And Brant is about 10, 15 years down the road and can share with me experiences and things that he has seen in his role in his career that can help me in any situation that I might be in. Brant also has been a reference for me in multiple times in different positions that I've applied for. And then finally, Eric Ostrander. So Eric is also a graduate of YSU's graphic design program. Eric and I met day one of 2005 fall semester, and I think the life drawing class there at YSU. I didn't know Eric. Eric's from Columbiana. I'm from Campbell. We both, just started talking, sat next to each other in class, and found out we liked basketball. And so started playing basketball together on the weekends. Since then, Eric has become a best friend of mine and is really like a brother to me. Our kids play together. He lives in Nashville here. And so when he was graduating from YSU, I think in about 2014, 2015, we had a position open as a contractor. And I said, hey man, you should just apply for it. Just give it a shot. Move down to Nashville. If it works, great. If not, you've got something on your resume. And since then, Eric's career has continued to blossom here at HCA Healthcare. He serves as a UI designer on our patient portal. So building a product that serves as like, if you go to the doctor, it's the portal that you would go to see your health records and pay your bill and things like that. Eric and his wife and their little boy live about 5 miles down the road from me and my family. And like I said, Eric has become a great friend. And so just to keep in mind, it will be really tempting for you as you leave YSU to forget about your relationships, to just move on to, if you move out of town or if you move on to something else, don't take for granted the relationships that you've made over these past 4 years. Those relationships might pay off 5, 10, 15 years down the road in ways you might not expect. And so always keep in contact, always keep connections and relationships with the people that you're going through life with right now. Another kind of thing that I wish I would have known back then is that the design world changes rapidly. So you've got to stay on your toes. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, UX wasn't a thing. Now UX is in my title. It's one of the things that I do. And design has constantly changed and shifted over the years. So always be learning, always be on your toes, always be looking for ways that you can grow and advance your career. If you're interested in different types of design, explore it, dive into it, learn about it. It will pay off in a freelance capacity, in a career choice, and even in your bread and butter and the thing that you're really good at. If that's interface design, if that's illustration, if it's marketing, if it's advertisement, always stay on top of your toes with trends, with blogs, with continuing education and certificates and things like that. I've seen a lot of people stay stagnant in their career and get stuck. And I think the key to that is always, being moldable and being adaptable and always stay learning in what's new and what's the cutting edge of design. Another thing I wish I would have told myself back when I graduated in 2009 that I've learned along the way is to major in the majors and minor in the minors. And that might sound contradictory to what I had just said about always be learning. But I don't think it is. I encourage you to find your niche. Find the thing that you are just passionate about and really good at, and focus on it. Don't stretch yourself too thin, and don't become everything to everybody. But also feel free to minor in some other things that you're interested in and you're passionate about. For instance, I'm not by any means a great illustrator or icon designer. I think I struggled mightily in learning Illustrator and creating the duck that Michelle had us to do and doing stamps. Illustration has never been my strong suit. But throughout my career, I've met a lot of great illustrators. And so in the event that I need illustrations for a project or a product, I can always rely on them or tap on somebody else to provide quality illustrations because that's what they're good at. And that's not what I'm good at. And so I've seen and I've tried myself to be everything to everybody. And at the end of the day, you can't be an expert in everything. And so find the thing that where you can find your niche, where you can be an expert and really focus on that, but always experiment to the point where you're just dangerous enough in a lot of different things. And know people in those spaces who are majoring, who are experts, and share your abilities with each other, to create great design. Fourth thing is to get out of your comfort zone and don't get boxed in. If you're really good at interface design, don't just think about traditional web. Think about application design. Think about how can I translate that to a 10-foot display? How can I translate that to a Jumbotron? How can I translate that to a digital billboard? So just, don't narrow yourself in or think too narrowly about what you're doing. Think outside of the box. Think broader than just the type of design work that you're doing right now. Think about how your design might translate in a lot of different areas as it relates to creative materials. So how is your concept going to display on a social media, a Facebook feed ad, on a website ad, maybe on the right column? How's it going to look as the header on a website? All these different ways that you need to be thinking outside of the box or outside of the creative spectrum that you're in right now, and think more broadly about how you can utilize your skills, utilize your designs to impact a much wider and broader audience. And the fifth thing, the thing that I wish I would have known way back in 2009 when I graduated was that I would never stop hustling. And I would encourage you to never stop learning, always scrap and claw and hustle and work hard, always adapt your skills. Like I said, design is constantly changing. Web design, interface design is constantly changing. So even in these kind of niches of design, everything's constantly changing. Tools are changing rapidly. Always build and experiment for yourself. You don't always have to be working on a project for a company or organization or freelance. Do some things for yourself and find a creative outlet for something that you're passionate about. And then always give back. What I've learned over the past 10 years, 10, 15 years or so, is that as designers, we have a unique ability and a unique gift to create and to tell stories with our craft, with our talents. And it's not a skill that everybody has, although everybody thinks they're a designer. And if you don't know that now, you'll find that out very shortly in your career. Everybody thinks they're a designer. But don't be afraid to give back to the community. Design can change a community. It can change the world. I really believe that. And your skills enable you to do that. It doesn't mean that you have to make top dollar every time you have a freelance opportunity. It might mean that you take a little bit less just to be able to help out. And I encourage you to do that. It adds to your portfolio. And I've found that it comes back, double or tenfold what you think it might, later on in your career. Those connections pay off. Minoring in the minors and becoming experts in the majors, the things that you're excited about, the things that you're really talented in. And the areas that you find your craft, you find your niche, will pay off dividends. But also don't be afraid to give back, to the community that surrounds you. All right, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for, hearing me out and listening to my story and letting me share a few things that I've learned over my career. I'm always happy to provide feedback if you're looking for a design critique or feedback on a project. Or if you're interested in moving to Nashville and looking for opportunities, happy to help however I can. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search Ryan Firm. I've got MUX, Masters in UX at the end of it. Website's madebyfirm.co. And excited to chat with you today, and looking forward to connecting with you all, and happy to help however I can. All right. Have a good one. Thanks.